トビデオ
Sometimes I lay back and ask myself this question: why do I make videos like this? Of course, you know the pitch for this series is to keep the flame lit for the anime of yesterday, to uncover the forgotten artworks from the sands of time and reinsert them into the Spiritus Mundi, to reassess the better known titles and properly place them in their historical context, and to rip into the old refuse for easy internet brownie points. But the reason why I ask myself this question is an attempt to justify why I choose to examine anime like today's anime, the forgettable footnotes of a time long past, the truly lost of the anime landscape, built to fill shelves and nothing more. These types of anime are worthy of coverage though, because, as we've seen throughout this show, there are a surprising number of talented artists attached to them. Sure, they might not be doing their best work and may in fact be slumming it, and yet, sometimes you can find the hidden spark that they carry with them throughout all their creative endeavors. Another reason why the footnotes are worthy of individual coverage is that they can also represent a point in time where a famous animation studio was. You can use the smaller titles to gauge whether a studio is on the verge of something big or on the verge of a complete collapse. And that's what today's anime is all about.
なってるの人間は優しくなってるのノロン絶対信じてるの
High school student everyman Akihiro Otsuki is on cloud 9. The hottest babe in school, his words not mine, Miyuki Tanaka has confessed her love to him on Valentine's Day, resulting in a going steady relationship. And now, with a date planned for later that evening, Akihiro is ready, willing, and able for what lies in store. Just then, he trips over a rolled up carpet among the street trash. The carpet is covered with ornate patterns and is in excellent condition. It would be a waste for such a fancy rug to wind up in a dump somewhere, so Akihiro takes it home to spruce up his man cave, with the added benefit that it might just be the missing piece needed for him and Miyuki to take their relationship to the next base.
さあ綺麗になったよ絨毯ちゃんこれでみゆきちゃんと絨毯ちゃん大好き
Suddenly, something weird pops out of the carpet, and I'm not talking about dust mites. A cute, elvish-looking girl with pink hair, revealing clothes, and a sunny disposition appears in Akihiro's room and declares his love for him. Her name is Malon, and she is the eponymous girl from the land of Phantasia. Phantasia is a land of brownies, the household spirit from Scottish folklore, not the desserts. They had once lived in harmony with mankind, but once man became selfish and driven by their own desires, the brownie wizards created Phantasia as a sanctuary from their evil ways, and sealed themselves until humanity can once again learn compassion. Malon, having the coveted role of Phantasia's night sentry, bore witness to Akihiro taking the carpet Phantasia was sealed into his home and cleaning it. Believing this to be an act of altruism and not a means to an end for some girly action, Malon leaps for joy into our world and pronounces her love for Akihiro, in her eyes, the kindest human on Earth.
これからここに住み込むと
マロン、アキヒロのこと気に入ったのねアキヒロ、とっても優しい人だもん
Thus is the foundational premise for the Girl From Phantasia, and Akihiro will soon have to contend with more cute brownie girls, an evil brownie wizard, and the potential romantic triangle and the comedic misunderstandings within, mayhaps?
みゆきちゃん
さよなら
So, stop me if you've heard this one. 1993's The Girl From Phantasia is an anime about a teenage boy with an insatiable id who has the hots for a cute girl who is also kind of his girlfriend. But, through a series of weird and strange events, he gets saddled with an oddball girl from another world with colorful hair and revealing clothing. And along the way, he meets her girl posse, gets in entanglements with a male enemy, and finds himself in many sexy mix-ups with her. Oh, and the girl is also dumb as a post. Yeah, Phantasia is not exactly breaking new ground. Even looking at it, you can tell that this was not a title bound for greatness. It's low budget, derivative, shockingly short. It makes no effort to stand out from the pack of VHSs lining the shelves whatsoever. But when placed in its proper historical context, the Girl from Phantasia finds itself as a marker, the product of a world-famous studio at a pivotal crossroads. One last odd job before it entered the new critical phase of its existence. Am I overselling this? Oh, you betcha. But I'm sure I've gotten you hooked by now. Let's dig into The Girl from Phantasia, as it's one piece of anime history that won't be swept under the rug anytime soon.
あんな大声で「もらった!」なんて矢沢さんね。
ゴミをもらっちゃうつもりなんざまし
どえりゃ意地汚のござんさんね。
Let's get down to business first and foremost. Do you have an inkling of who was the big important studio behind this video filler? The answer may surprise you. Give up? Production IG, the anime industry's own futurist. They were actually the brains behind something as unremarkable as The Girl from Phantasia. How did that happen? I have a more detailed write-up about Production IG's early days planned ahead in the near future. For now, these are the things you should know. From its founding in 1987 to the early 90s, Production IG existed mainly as an independent production branch of the animation giant Tatsunoko Productions, under the name IG Tatsunoko Ltd. Their prime directive for those early years was to be a subcontractor studio for Tatsunoko, but thanks to hefty investments by its parent company, IG Tatsunoko grew out of the nest quite fast. By the 90s, they were doing their own productions on films such as The Weathering Continent and popular OVA series like Video Girl Ai and Dragon Half. In 1993, the process for splitting off into their own fully independent production house went underway, and it was completed that September. But while all that complicated paperwork was being filled out, IG Tatsunoko was still animating projects, whether they be the second Patlabor movie or one of the many OVAs they were still working on. The Girl from Phantasia was one of the OVAs produced during the final year where Production IG was known as IG Tatsunoko. In fact, it was the last anime the studio ever produced under that label. The switchover came in September 1993. Phantasia was released on November 26 that same year. We don't have a proper timeline over when production did start, but considering the IG Tatsunoko credit is still there, we can assume Phantasia's production began under that company and ended when they became Production IG. So in a weird way, this is the first official Production IG anime. Sorry, Please Save My Earth. But where did The Girl from Phantasia come from? From a manga, dingus! Don't most of them? This is an adaptation of the manga Phantasia written by Akane Nagano. Born in Tokyo on February 11, 1969, Nagano is an uncommon sort in that she is a female mangaka who works primarily in the field of shonen and seinen. Looking at her art, it's not hard to see why. She has that knack for drawing incredibly cute girls. Her big manga before Phantasia was Sorry I'm a Cat, a manga about a high school girl who gets merged with a cat to become a cat girl. In short, Nagano was a valuable asset to the average 90s otaku and the burgeoning moe culture. Running from April of 1992 to March of 1996, Phantasia, from what the handful of Raws can tell me, is really just a showcase of cute elven-looking girls and how well Nagano can draw them. But that premise is enough to get attention from outside the manga sphere. In 1993, King Records, under their in-house Star Child label, bankrolled a series of Phantasia radio dramas and an anime, and IG Tatsunoko, soon to be Production IG, was enlisted to make that anime. Like with the numerous OVAs based off of manga that us Americans never got over here, the raws I have for Phantasia do not give me enough to go on to judge this anime as an adaptation. But we shouldn't need to. An anime of this type should be able to hold up on its own. On staff, this work is defined by a lot of people who were around this transition for Production IG. For director, we have Jun Kamiya, who would go on to helm Production IG's first TV anime project, Blue Seed. An animation director and character designer is Kazuchika Kisei, who was the animation director for the lion's share of the Patlabor OVA and both the movies. For this reason, I think the animators do an admirable job with the tools they were given. They know Phantasia is cribbing a lot from Urusei Yatsura, so they crib some more. Taking a few pages from IG's key benefactor, Mamoru Oshii, the animation of Phantasia is built around the slapstick comedy. It's cartoonish and unafraid in breaking reality with its goofball sensibilities. You have characters moving and bending like they are made of rubber, making funny faces that aren't too wild but just enough to help make a joke land, and characters breaking the fourth wall by fidgeting with the comedic elements. It's like Hey, we've got to deal with an Urusei Yatsura also ran. Let's bring the best parts of Urusei Yatsura to it.
ごちそう出してみろドッカーンとな
ドッカーン。はーい、ドッカーン。
やっぱり
秋広喜んでくれた？
Outside the comedy, I think there's also some strong character animation bits, like Akihiro angrily smacking a bunch of Valentine chocolates out of Malon's arms and having them individually scatter, or strong action bits like the main villain Roll levitating a bunch of tools and each of them having their individual weight to them, or just the effects work on the general magic explosions that feel straight out of a DBZ episode in some cases. The point is that even though this may have been a mid-budget project done solely to fulfill their contract obligations, the IG staff still put in the work and were not resting on their laurels. Wish I could say the same for the script. The screenplay for The Girl From Phantasia was the product of Katsuyuki Sumisawa, an established novelist and screenwriter who was operating as a journeyman in the anime system around this time. He was 2 years away from showrunning the colossal Gundam Wing series of the Mobile Suit Gundam franchise. And considering a lot of other stuff he was working on around this time, I doubt an anime like Phantasia was a high priority. Most, heck, all of Phantasia's problems come right down to the fact that this does not exactly feel like an OVA. It's more like an internal pilot film that never got picked up by a network, and it was decided that they should cut their losses and just release it as is to the public to recoup. On one hand, this is a serviceable introduction to the conceit of Phantasia and its character dynamics. On the other hand, its runtime barely even scraping a half hour makes the plot's overall structure feel weird and, at times, shaky. For instance, after the totally not predictable plot beat of Miyuki walking in on Akihiro getting straddled by his pink-haired cousin and giving him both a verbal and physical beatdown, the tone goes from wacky romantic comedy shenanigans to an emotional drama. Akihiro yells at Malon, telling her that she's ruined his life in the 10 short minutes they've known each other and that her magic tricks are stupid and harmful. Let us ignore the fact that he was hungrily drooling over her ass like a Christmas ham not even a minute ago.
てめえなんかちょっと可愛いからっていい気になりやがって。だけどどうせ魔法使いだから正体は化け物なんだろうが。
ひどい。秋広。
出てけよ。出てけよ。
It's a jarring shift in tone. Urusei Yatsura would also have moments like this, but it would either be a setup for another gag or have a proper build-up in order to make the drama hit. But for Phantasia, it not only goes back to Gagtown shortly afterwards, but that entire blow-up at Malon is the entire nucleus of the OVA's main conflict. After Malon runs off in tears, she declares that she will never ever use her magic again because it makes compassionate humans like Akihiro sad. Which is poor timing on her part because right as Akihiro is trying to get on with his Malon-free life, we're introduced to the main bad guy of the anime. This is Roll. He is a descendant of an evil brownie wizard called the Great Eclair, who was banished from Phantasia many millennia ago, and he's here to destroy the land inside the rug as revenge. And it is darkly funny to see Akihiro's overall nonchalance at the prospect of an entire world getting wiped out on his watch.
このファンタジアをこの世から消滅させることが我が一族の願い。させていただくぜ。はいはい。勝手にどうぞ。と思ったがやめた。
But Roll's not content at being allowed to march in with no resistance and goes off to find Malon because beating the realm's protector first is more sporting, it would seem. So we get a series of lengthy scenes of Roll chasing Malon around and trying to goad her into a proper battle, all while Malon cries and refuses to fight because of her promise. And while these scenes do have good animation, like I said, they still feel like padding because they're trying to stretch what amounts to one chapter of a manga into a half hour. Still, it's a less egregious example than the next scene. After Roll leaves, we get two other brownie girls popping out of Phantasia. Short, the butch bad girl looking brownie, and Mont Blanc, the demure pigtailed brownie. They're here to fix things since they're far more cynical compared to Malon about humanity's ability to feel compassion and feel like this was an inevitability since Malon's actually half human, a plot beat that doesn't get expanded on in this anime whatsoever. And I'm dead serious here, because Akihiro overhears this and feels guilty, we get a flashback to events that happened 10 minutes ago.
今までの森人たちが どんな目にあったか知らないんですわ。やっぱりマロンの思った通り、人間にも優しい人いたのね。マロン最高に嬉しいの。
In an OVA where you usually have more leeway to pace things out thanks to not having to account for commercials, resorting to this type of fluff signals that you didn't have enough story to work with. It's not like Sumisawa cares or anything. The way everything else in the plot is structured feels like he could care less about how the plot gets from point A to point B. When Short and Mont Blanc go to confront Roll at the construction site where he's cornered Malon, they bring Akihiro along for no reason. If they're gonna tell him to stay where they landed, why did they even bother bringing him there in the first place? Easy answer. Because Akihiro needs to be there in order for him to tell Malon she has his permission to use her magic again after the two bitches get spanked by Roll. And once that happens, that's pretty much the end anime now button, since Malon is basically a Super Saiyan, it turns out. Hey, she didn't get her sentry gig on her looks after all. With that nastiness out of the way, it continues into the story proper with Malon joining Akihiro's school, Short and Mont Blanc keeping a close eye on them, and Akihiro inevitably having to bear the brunt of numerous more misunderstandings with Miyuki. Hilarious. You can see why an anime like this has been forgotten, right? As I said before, this is not really a standalone OVA. It's really the first episode of a Phantasia anime series, the rest of which will never see the light of day. And is that really such a huge loss? Phantasia's ambitions to be an Urusei Yatsura of the 90s aren't even that well hidden. IG Tatsunoko are practically shining a light on them by their direction, right down to giving Malon a similar flight sound effect to Lum's. Hell, it can also be more of a ripoff to the actual Urusei Yatsura of the 90s, Ah My Goddess, which is also about an ordinary young man netting a relationship with a supernatural cute girl via a misunderstanding, and soon has to deal with her two other acquaintances who are also cute supernatural girls. The only true hook Phantasia has is that Malon is this simple-minded ingenue, good-natured and powerful, but basically a literal-minded child.
今度は絶世の美女を出すんだ。若くてピチピチしててバストも豊満で性格も良くて。いや、
それはマロンのことなのね。Akihiroそんなにマロンのこと愛してくれたなの。
And that is such a cheat code for this type of anime, easy for creating both conflict and fan service. But Malon, while cute, lacks a lot of potential characters like Lum or Bell Dandy already have. There's no feisty edge to her like the former, nor aching insecurity like the latter. Malon's too shallow to really be more than forgotten 90s fan service. Look into those eyes of hers. There's nothing there. In the end, the Girl from Phantasia can only exist as a fun little historical curiosity. There's nothing objectionably bad about it, but I wouldn't call it good either. It's nothing more than the staff at the newly christened production IG completing one last mercenary job before frying bigger fish. And while the talent still can be seen in the final production, I'm sorry, but there's no buried treasure hidden underneath this carpet. But even then, it is still a thread on the rich tapestry of Production IG's rich history. A small, insignificant thread, but a thread nonetheless.
いつまでも一緒よ。
バカ話すんだよ。さっきのは嘘も褒めてあんた知らないよねこんな言葉。
Thank you all for watching. If you like this video or want to support this channel, please donate to my Patreon. Each dollar can give you early access to my videos as they come out, as well as keep the channel running a bit more smoothly. You can also subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, or just like this video. Either way, you'll be helping me out. That's all for now. See you for the next round of tapes.